We're here to talk a little bit about ethics. There's an interesting paradox about it, which is that ethics, acting ethically, being ethical, ethics won't get you enlightened. But without ethics, you will not get enlightened. And so it's a kind of necessary but not sufficient foundation for almost everything that follows. There are so many misconceptions about ethics, it's hard to know where to begin. And so part of what we want to do is try and clear up some of those misconceptions. Most of the bad sort of reputation that ethics has comes from lower stages of moral development that have become identified with ethics. So don't drink, don't smoke, don't sex, don't all of that kind of stuff. That has very little to do with ethics. You can do all of that. It has to do with the degree of consciousness and the degree of respect you use when you interact with others in whatever behavior you have. So we'll see what that means. Virtually no behavior is ruled out. It's the degree, the level, the kind of consciousness you bring to the behavior and the care and concern with which you hold other perspectives that determines whether your behavior is ethical or not. We'll be talking about those as well. There's a series of paradoxes that we'll be dealing with when we talk about ethics, particularly ethics and spiritual development. And the first one, as I said, is that ethical behavior will not get you enlightened. And there's a very simple reason for that. Ethical behavior is dualistic. It's going to ask you to do this and not that. Act good and not bad. Practice this and not that. That locks you into the dualistic world. And the traditions often use an analogy here, which is that it's commonly said that our waking life is a dream, and that with Satori or enlightenment, we're literally going to wake up from the dream, and that's true. Ethics stops the dream from becoming a nightmare. Ethics is the way you can live a relatively healthy, happy life in the world of the dream. And believe me, that's got a lot going for it. No amount of activity in the temporal realm will awaken you to the timeless. And there's, this is the second paradox. That's because the absolute realization of the enlightened mind is something you're aware of right now. It's literally the condition you have right now. It literally is that in you right now, which is listening to my voice, seeing this room, having all of these sights arising in your consciousness. There is no path to that which you are fully aware of right now. Now, why would you want a path to get to where you're sitting right now? Yeah, because some of you don't believe me. There's a distinction made in Buddhism, for example, between what's called relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. Bodhi means enlightenment or awakened, and citta basically means consciousness. So bodhicitta is variously translated as enlightenment or the awakened heart or the awakened mind. And there's relative bodhicitta and there's absolute bodhicitta. So the relative bodhicitta is referred to as compassion. Absolute bodhicitta is referred to as emptiness. So relative path is the path of ethics. That's what you have to do as a precondition in order to be able to effectively hold the ever-present recognition of absolute bodhicitta. So you can have a satori, but if you don't have a structure that will hold it, it will slip. And that structure is ethics. Ethics is the box in which your enlightened mind comes. And unless you have a sturdy structure to hold it in the relative realm, you'll glimpse it and it'll slip away, you'll glimpse it and it'll slip away. So one way to talk about ethics is it's dualistic action that makes recognition of the non-dual more likely. And once that happens, it's a way to hold it, a way to not let this ever-present condition slip away. So in a sense, it's this series of preconditions. So there are several things that acting ethically does. And again, we'll go into exactly what that means, and Roger will have a lot of exercises on that. The first is that ethical behavior is simply healthy living at whatever level or stage you're at. So the first thing that ethics does is it is a way to be happy within the dream at whatever stage you're at. Relatively happy within the dream at whatever stage you're at. It makes things as smooth as it's going to get at that particular stage of development, which is saying a lot, actually. So that first thing it does is it helps with translation wherever you're at. The second thing is that ethical considerations or moral considerations force you to take the perspective of another. And anytime you take the perspective of another, you are being open to transformation. The fundamental rule of transformation is anything that gets you out of your present perception helps transformation. So most importantly, what ethical action can do is help transform consciousness to the next higher stage in the dream. And these are all relative things, but trust me, good stuff. So that's the second thing that does. And the third is a foundation, it's a container for non-dual recognition as that continues to break upon you. The higher the stage of development, the harder it is to deny what you already know. That's basically what development is all about. It makes it harder and harder and harder for you to be able to pretend that you're not fully enlightened. So that the pretenses kind of drop away the more you develop through these stages. So those kinds of practices, don't be, in a sense, confused by the fact that most of the ethical practices that we do have a very dualistic form. As I said, it's do this, don't do that, exercise this way, avoid that. So those are all very dualistic, and that's why, in a sense, they keep you in the realm of the dream, the realm of samsara. But it's increasingly making that dream become more and more transparent. Now, nothing will cause enlightenment or realization because it doesn't have a beginning and time. Shankara and many other sages have repeated this over and over and over again. Anything that has a beginning and time is not real. I'm talking from the absolute point of view now. So there's something in your awareness right now, and there's only one thing in your awareness right now that's never, ever had a beginning. We'll talk about what that is in a moment. Other things enter your awareness, they stay a bit, and they go. So an experience comes, has a beginning and time, stays a bit, and departs. It can be a really great experience, lights and bliss and woo, and stays a bit and goes. Or it can be a really horrible experience, comes in, stays a lot longer, and goes. All of those have a beginning and an end of time. They're all relative. They're all part of the world of manifestation. Some people have a big spiritual experience, and that's fine. It'll come a bit, it'll stay, and it'll go. All of those come and go in the ever-present field of your awareness. The one thing that doesn't change is this thing that you deeply, deeply call I am. That's the only thing that you've ever had as a constant experience. You can think back a week ago. You can't think of a single thing that was going on. It's an object out here. But you were there. There's this I amness, this ever-present radical self that is your true condition. That doesn't come into being. There's no point that enters your awareness because it's the only thing you've been aware of for billions and billions of years. That's your fundamental, ever-present condition of I amness. What ethics does is straighten out the world of objects and make them less problematic so you don't have to attend to them all the time. And it's more likely you're going to acknowledge this ever-present state of I amness that is your genuine condition. And then once that's happened, you still have to express that in the realm of manifestation. And ethical action is just basically it's a highest form of expression in the manifest domain.